Story 1: Motorcycle Crash and the Abandoned Village. My solo journey through the rugged landscapes of Kyushu was supposed to be an exhilarating break from the monotony of everyday life. The roar of the motorcycle beneath me, the winding roads, and the open sky promised adventure and freedom. But as the sun began to set, a treacherous turn betrayed me. The tires lost their grip on the slick asphalt, and in an instant, I was skidding out of control. The bike crashed hard into a ditch, leaving me bruised, bloodied, and disoriented, but miraculously still alive. Staggering away from the wreck, I found myself in front of a small, eerily quiet village. The setting sun cast long, creeping shadows over the place, as if the very light was reluctant to touch it. The buildings were old and weather-beaten, their wooden facades cracked and worn by time. Not a single window glowed with light. They were all dark, empty, like the hollow eyes of a long-dead corpse. As night descended, an unnatural silence enveloped the village, heavy and oppressive. There were no signs of life, no hum of electricity, no distant voices. Just the occasional rustle of leaves and the faint, mournful cries of birds far. I ventured cautiously down the deserted streets, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the thickening dark. But the deeper I went, the more the silence was shattered by something far more sinister. Strange noises echoed from the shadows, the soft creak of a door in the wind, the faint echo of footsteps on empty streets. The atmosphere was stifling, as if the village itself were a living, breathing entity, its presence malevolent and suffocating. My flashlight flickered erratically, casting long, jittery shadows that seemed to dance and twist in ways that defied explanation out of the corner of my eye. I caught glimpses of shadowy figures flitting between the buildings, their movements too quick, too fluid to be human. Panic gripped me as I realized I was not alone in this place. Something or someone was watching me, stalking me from the darkness. The air grew colder, and a thick fog began to roll in, swirling around me, obscuring my path and heightening the sense of dread. My heart pounded in my chest, my breath coming in short, ragged gasps. I shone my flashlight towards the darkened windows of the houses, and in the dim light, I saw them, faint, fleeting shapes moving within, their eyes glinting with a malevolent glow. I could feel the village closing in on me, the shadows tightening their grip, the whispers growing louder, more insistent. Desperation took hold, and I broke into a run, my feet pounding the uneven ground as I fled towards the road. The fog seemed to chase me, thickening with every step, until I could barely see a few feet in front of me. But just as I thought all hope was lost, I spotted the faint glow of headlights cutting through the gloom. I waved frantically, and a car screeched to a halt beside me. I threw myself inside, gasping out a garbled explanation to the bewildered driver. As we sped away, I dared one last glance back at the village. It stood there, shrouded in darkness and fog, its secrets buried deep within its twisted, silent streets. But even from the safety of the car, I could still feel it. The village's unseen eyes following me, its malevolent presence lingering in the back of my mind. The terror of that night clung to me long after I had escaped, leaving a scar on my soul that would never fully heal. I knew, without a doubt, that I had come perilously close to something truly evil, something that should have never been disturbed. The village was a place out of time, a place where the boundary between the living and the dead had been blurred beyond recognition. And as much as I wanted to forget, I knew that I never could. The village had marked me, and its dark, terrible secrets would haunt me for the rest of my days. Story 2: Mysterious Settlement Discovered. My expedition into the remote, uncharted hills was meant to be a routine mapping of untouched lands, but what I uncovered was beyond anything I could have imagined. Deep within the heart of an ancient forest, where the trees loomed tall and the undergrowth choked the light, I stumbled upon a long-forgotten settlement. The structures, built of weathered stone, were draped in thick layers of moss-entangled vines, as though nature itself sought to reclaim the place. The air was heavy with an oppressive silence, as if even the wind dared not disturb the eerie stillness. Drawn by a mixture of curiosity and an inexplicable sense of dread, I approached what seemed to be the central building. Its once grand facade was now cracked and crumbling, yet it stood defiant against the passage of time. As I stepped inside, I was met with a suffocating cloud of dust that swirled in the stale air. The walls were adorned with strange symbols etched deep into the stone, their meanings lost to time. A chill ran down my spine as I realized these markings were not merely decorative. They felt like warnings, or perhaps a plea to whatever gods had once watched over this place. Venturing deeper into the settlement, I noticed a larger structure looming in the distance, a community building perhaps. But something about it was profoundly wrong. The windows were pitch black, as though the darkness within was more than just the absence of light. The very sight of it filled me with a sense of foreboding, a primal fear that whispered for me to turn back. Before I could react, an old woman materialized from the shadows, her appearance so sudden it was as if she had been conjured by the dark itself. Her face was a mask of rage and terror, her eyes wide with a madness that sent a jolt of fear through my heart. She screamed at me in a language I could not understand, her voice cracking with emotion. Though her words were foreign, their meaning was clear. She wanted me gone. I attempted to flee, but as I turned, the atmosphere shifted from unsettling to nightmarish. The shadows within the windows of the community building began to writhe and twist, taking on forms that defied logic and reality. Whispers slithered through the air, their sources unseen but their menace unmistakable. The temperature plummeted, and I could feel the cold seeping into my bones, as though the very air had turned against me. Panic seized me, and I hurriedly gathered my gear, my only thought to escape this cursed place. But as I fled, I could feel the weight of unseen eyes upon me, watching, waiting. I dared one final glance back at the settlement, and what I saw will haunt me forever. The darkness seemed to pulse, as if alive, swallowing the structures whole, leaving nothing but an impenetrable void where the ancient ruins had once stood. I ran until I could no longer feel the malevolent presence behind me, but the sense of unease never left. Even now, in the safety of civilization, the memory of that settlement lingers in my mind, a dark stain on my soul. Whatever secrets the place held, they were buried beneath layers of decay and despair, and I am certain they were never meant to be uncovered. I can only hope that no one else will ever find that forsaken place. For some doors are best left unopened, and some mysteries are too terrifying to unravel. Story 3. Discovering the Hidden Village. Rain pounded against the windshield as Mike and I drove deeper into the dense, mist-shrouded forests of rural Japan. Our destination was the legendary Hidden Village, rumored to be a place where time stood still and ancient traditions still lived on. The air was thick with mist and anticipation, our excitement overshadowing the dark clouds hovering overhead. After hours of traveling on muddy, treacherous trails, we reached a clearing where we expected to find the mysterious village. Instead, What lay before us was a bustling tourist attraction. Shops selling local trinkets and crafts lined the streets, and groups of tourists roamed the area. Disappointed but undaunted, we decided to explore the surrounding woods, hoping to discover something truly hidden. As the rain intensified, the forest became eerily silent. Our flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing only the dense, dark trees. Before long, we began to notice strange movements in the periphery of our vision, shadows darting between the trees, vanishing before we could focus on them. We laughed nervously, trying to convince ourselves that it was just a trick of the light. But as the figures grew bolder, darting closer, our laughter turned to unease. The figures moved at an unnatural pace, their shapes shifting and blending into the darkness. A cold air swept through the forest, the temperature dropping sharply. Every now and then, one of the figures would stop, its shape momentarily illuminated by our flashlights, only to disappear again. Panic set in as the darkness seemed to close in on us. We could hear faint whispers echoing in the relentless drumbeat of the rain. We sprinted through the forest, panting, the shadows seemingly chasing us at an unstoppable pace. The oppressive weight of the forest loomed around us, amplifying our fear. We finally ran back to the clearing where the attraction was, panting. The pleasant hum of activity surrounded us, but the terror of the forest remained. As we drove away, our conversation was filled with a mixture of disbelief and fear. Had we really seen what we thought we had, or had the stress of the trip played tricks on our minds? The shadowy figures remained a haunting question mark in our memories. If you are a fan of mysteries, supernatural phenomena, and truly terrifying experiences, then you have come to the right place. We share horror and creepy stories, all true and told with realistic and suspenseful detail. Don't miss the chance to experience the thrill and horror with us. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Thank you for visiting Mr. Horror, Night Horror Stories, where each story is an adventure into the world of mystery and horror. Story 4. A strange work experience. The job seemed simple enough, cleaning a pond at an old mansion on the outskirts of town. But as soon as I arrived, the mansion's eerie atmosphere set the scene for an unsettling experience. The mansion, with its faded grandeur and creaking floors, felt like a relic from a bygone era. As I began the job, I made a disturbing discovery: bones scattered around the edge of the pond. They were old and weathered, an unsettling sight amid the mud. Despite my growing unease, I continued on, hoping it was just another oddity of the property. The atmosphere in the mansion grew increasingly gloomy. Strange noises echoed through the hallways, footsteps in empty rooms, distant whispers, and the occasional mournful wail that seemed to come from nowhere. My assignment grew increasingly strange. I was instructed to meticulously clean the pond water and polish a golden statue that stood ominously at the water's edge. One evening, as I was cleaning the statue, I heard a mournful wail. It was almost human but distorted, filling the air with an eerie sadness. The shadows of the mansion seemed to stretch and twist in unnatural ways, amplifying the sense of dread that was plaguing me. The final straw came when I discovered a hidden room behind a false wall in the basement. Inside, I found a macabre display of ritual artifacts and many bones arranged in ominous patterns. The realization that I'd been working in a place with such a dark and unsettling history made my skin crawl. I finished my work as quickly as I could, my nerves on edge and my senses on high alert. As I left the mansion, the feeling of being watched remained, and the strange experiences left me with a deep sense of unease. The mansion's dark history and disturbing events haunted me long after I left.